Okay, Unconditional Surrender is a hex and counter wargame published by GMT Games and designed by Salvatore Basta, representing the entire of the Second World War in the European theatre from the invasion of Poland in 1939 to the collapse of the German army in 1945. It is what I would describe as medium weight for a hex and counter wargame. That is, if it's your first wargame, unless you are coming from a role-playing background, you're going to find it seriously heavy. It is deliberately a traditional game within its genre, so no card play to make the exceptions and special events easier to remember. Movement points, zones of control, supply lines, step losses, stacking limits, etc. All things that, if you're familiar with them, then assimilating this becomes easier, but if you're not, woe betide you. The rules could be better written, and they could be better designed to have fewer exceptions. But this is not a review. I'm just trying to set you up so you go in with realistic expectations. It's nowhere near the best example of a board war game. It's almost certainly not the best game of its genre covering the whole of World War II. Yes, it's a bit more of a simulation than Axis and Allies, but it does fall short in some places it probably doesn't need to. And in places it sacrifices gameplay it probably shouldn't. There is a serious opening problem, the weather rules just don't work, either from a simulation or a gameplay point of view. But it does have strengths. It reproduces the ebb and flow of World War II in Europe really well, with a victory condition that gives a logical reason for the game to play through to 1945. And its most important strength is you can play it on Board Game Arena. Board Game Arena is an online site dedicated to the play of board games, mostly modern Euros or derivative post-Euro games. The BGA user Lunalol has created an adaptation of the game for that site, which is excellent. It was launched at the beginning of 2021, and while it was not the first game I made videos about, it was the genesis of this channel. You see, I grew up on board games, I'm not someone who's drawn into the hobby post-Euro games, and I have quite eclectic tastes. I own a lot of miniatures, I've played hex and counter war games. I enjoy them, but while I've played a lot, I've rarely played any hex and counter game with more than a handful of opponents. Board Game Arena changes that completely. It gives you the opportunity to play with a wide variety of opponents, with an arbiter enforcing the rules, because these games are complicated enough it's very easy to forget them, and to play often enough that it becomes possible to talk about strategy and tactics, to actually analyse the game in a relatively robust manner. Unconditional Surrender has a number of scenarios. I highly recommend the USSR 1941 scenario, covering Barbarossa, Typhoon, and the Soviet winter counter-offensive. It's an excellent, well-balanced game in its own right. Most of the others do not hold up well as games in their own right. The end war historical positions are interesting games and well worth playing, but the victory conditions are poorly calibrated. Most other scenarios are basically training scenarios to give you an understanding of how these different parts might work when you fit them into the overall thing. But none of that really matters because we are all here for the main event, the scenario covering the whole war, from 1939 to the final battle for Berlin. And it is that which these videos focus on. Improving at any game is a function of three things: tactics, strategy, and rote learning. You get all of those by playing, but if all you do is play, you get them very slowly. Learning from analysis and other people's experience lets you dive deeper into a game's tactical and strategic space and to do it faster. And most importantly, that makes it more fun for you and your opponent if you can both appreciate when a move was well played. You will find all of these things discussed in the videos that follow. But it's kind of useful, I think, to emphasise what's important. Unconditional Surrender has an opening problem, and that is something that is worth studying. It's also something I kind of hope the designers will fix in a future edition. It also has a luck problem, specifically with the aforementioned weather rules. Fundamentally, you're only ever shifting the odds on the outcome, which will really be decided by how many turns of fair weather offensive the Allies get in the final years of the war. However, what shifts those odds consistently is tactics. Over the course of a single game, you will make close to 1,000 dice rolls for air, naval, and land combats. Every one of those rolls can have its odds subtly altered by your careful attention to probability, retreat paths, supply lines, and other factors. And that always tells. So you will find in these videos some rote learning, some strategy, and some tactics. But if you're interested in getting better, focus on the tactics. They are what really count. Good luck and have fun.